Your morning coffee tells a story. Your impulse Amazon purchases whisper secrets. Your subscription services are confessing something you probably don't want to hear. Every single transaction you make is like a fingerprint, leaving behind traces of who you really are beneath the surface. The way you spend money reveals more about your psychological state, your deepest fears, and your future prospects than any personality test ever could. But here's the plot twist that nobody talks about. You think you're making rational financial decisions based on logic and necessity. You believe you're in control of where your money goes. The uncomfortable truth? Your spending patterns are actually a direct reflection of your emotional wounds, your subconscious programming, and psychological patterns you inherited without even knowing it. Think about this for a moment. Every purchase decision you make activates the same neural pathways that govern survival, reward seeking, and social bonding. Your brain doesn't distinguish between buying a latte and securing your place in the social hierarchy. When you swipe that card, you're not just exchanging money for goods. You're performing an ancient ritual of status signaling, emotional regulation, and identity construction that goes back thousands of years. The scary part? Most people have no idea this is happening. They think they're just buying stuff. But neuroscientists have discovered that spending money triggers the exact same dopamine pathways as addictive substances. Studies show that the anticipation of a purchase activates your brain's reward center even more than actually receiving the item. Your spending isn't random. It's a carefully orchestrated dance between your conscious desires and your unconscious programming. Every dollar you spend is casting a vote for the person you think you are, or desperately want to become. The first pattern that reveals everything is what researchers call emotional spending fingerprints. These are the specific triggers that make you open your wallet when you're feeling vulnerable. Maybe you're the stress shopper who hits Target when work gets overwhelming. Perhaps you're the validation buyer who splurges on luxury items after rejection or criticism. Or you might be the scarcity spender who hoards deals and discounts because deep down you believe there will never be enough. Think of these patterns like a psychological EKG. Just as heart rhythm abnormalities reveal cardiac problems, spending rhythm abnormalities reveal emotional and financial health issues that need attention. When researchers analyzed thousands of credit card transactions, they found that people's emotional states could be predicted with scary accuracy just by looking at their purchase timing and categories. Stress spending typically happens late at night or during specific days of the week. Loneliness spending clusters around social media usage patterns. Depression spending shows up as either complete financial withdrawal or manic purchasing binges. Your spending patterns are basically an emotional diary written in dollar signs. The second revelation hiding in your transactions is something financial psychologists call identity economics. Every purchase you make is essentially you saying, "This is who I am," or "This is who I want to be." The organic food buyer is purchasing moral superiority, along with pesticide-free vegetables. The luxury brand enthusiast is buying social status disguised as leather goods.
Oh,
The coupon clipper is investing in an identity of frugality and practical wisdom. But here's where it gets fascinating and slightly disturbing. Research shows that people will actually make financially irrational decisions to maintain their spending-based identity, even when it hurts their long-term financial health. The bargain hunter will buy things they don't need because they're on sale. The generous friend will overspend on others to maintain their giving persona. The successful person will lease expensive cars they can't afford to project an image of prosperity. Your spending isn't just revealing who you are, it's actually shaping who you become, creating a feedback loop that can either build or destroy your financial future. Every transaction is simultaneously a reflection of your current identity and a vote for your future self. Hidden beneath the surface of seemingly random purchases lies a pattern that financial therapists call core wound spending. This is where your deepest psychological injuries show up disguised as shopping habits. If you experienced scarcity as a child, you might be an overbuyer who stockpiles items just in case. If you felt unloved or neglected, you might be a gift giver who uses money to purchase affection and approval. If you grew up with financial stress, you might swing between extreme frugality and guilt-ridden splurging. The fascinating thing about core wound spending is that it often appears completely logical on the surface. The person buying backup deodorant thinks they're being practical. The individual purchasing expensive gifts for friends believes they're being generous. The chronic sale shopper thinks they're being financially smart. But underneath each pattern is an emotional wound that's trying to heal itself through money. Studies in behavioral economics show that these deep-rooted spending patterns are incredibly resistant to change because they're serving a psychological function, not just a practical one. Your money is literally trying to heal your heart, but it's using the wrong medicine. Understanding this connection is the first step towards spending patterns that actually serve your well-being instead of sabotaging it. The timing of your purchases reveals another layer of psychological insight that most people never consider. Financial chronotherapy research shows that when you spend money is almost as revealing as what you spend it on. Late-night purchases often indicate emotional dysregulation or impulse control issues. Weekend spending sprees might reveal social anxiety or a need for stimulation. Monday morning purchases could signal anticipatory stress about the week ahead. Payday splurging patterns reveal your relationship with abundance and self-worth. If you consistently overspend right after getting paid, it suggests a scarcity mindset that equates money in the bank with money that needs to be spent before it disappears. If you wait until the end of pay period to make necessary purchases, it might indicate anxiety about your financial security or difficulty trusting your own financial judgment. The most revealing pattern of all is what happens during major life transitions. Divorce, job loss, relationship changes, health scares. These events create spending pattern disruptions that expose your core financial personality like nothing else. Some people become extreme penny pinchers during stress, while others go on spending binges. Neither response is inherently good or bad, but both reveal important information about how you use money to cope with uncertainty and change. Your subscription services and recurring payments form what economists call your financial personality autopilot. These are the expenses you've automated and forgotten about, but they reveal more about your aspirations and self-perception than almost any other category. The gym membership you never use shows you're paying for the fantasy of becoming a person who works out regularly. The streaming services you've accumulated represent your desire for entertainment variety and fear of missing out. The premium app subscriptions reveal your identity as someone who values quality and convenience. Multiple subscription boxes suggest either an abundance mindset or an inability to make decisions and stick with them. The most telling aspect of subscription spending is what you keep versus what you cancel. The services that survive your periodic budget reviews are the ones most closely tied to your core identity. They're the financial equivalent of looking in a mirror and seeing the person you most want to be. But here's the twist that catches most people off guard. Research shows that people with the most subscription services often have the lowest actual consumption of those services. They're not paying for utility, they're paying for possibility. They're buying access to potential versions of themselves. Your recurring payments are essentially a monthly investment in your fantasy life, and whether that's financially healthy depends entirely on whether those fantasies are moving you toward or away from your actual goals. The categories where you consistently overspend versus underspend create what financial psychologists call your values footprint. This is where your stated priorities clash with your revealed priorities, creating cognitive dissonance that affects your overall financial well-being. You might claim that family is your top priority, but if you're consistently overspending on personal luxuries while underspending on family experiences, your money is telling a different story. You might say you value health, but if you're buying expensive supplements while skimping on quality food or healthcare, there's a disconnect that needs attention. The most revealing aspect of values footprint analysis is examining your spending during value conflicts. When you have to choose between saving money and spending on something you claim to value, which wins? When convenience competes with your environmental values, where does your money actually go? These moments of financial choice reveal your true priority hierarchy, not the one you think you have or wish you had. The most common values footprint misalignment happens between present enjoyment and future security. People who claim they want financial independence but consistently prioritize immediate gratification purchases are essentially using money to avoid facing the emotional discomfort of delayed gratification. This pattern often intensifies during periods of stress or uncertainty, when the brain craves immediate rewards to cope with anxiety about the future. Another critical misalignment occurs between social values and spending behavior. You might strongly believe in supporting local businesses, but find yourself consistently choosing cheaper online alternatives. You might value authenticity, but spend heavily on status symbols that project an image rather than reflect reality. This isn't about willpower or discipline. It's about emotional regulation and your relationship with uncertainty about the future. Studies show that people who align their spending with their stated values report higher life satisfaction and better financial outcomes, even when their total spending remains the same. Your money becomes a tool for creating the life you actually want instead of medicating the life you're trying to avoid. The final pattern that reveals everything about your financial health is what happens during your moments of peak financial stress. This is when all your unconscious money patterns get amplified and exposed. Do you become paralyzed and avoid all financial decisions? Do you go into hyper-control mode and obsess over every penny? Do you make reckless financial decisions because you've decided the situation is hopeless anyway? Your stress response pattern with money predicts how you'll handle every major financial challenge in your life, from job loss to medical emergencies to market crashes. What's particularly fascinating is how financial stress creates a domino effect that reveals secondary patterns you might not even know you have. Some people become financial micromanagers during stress, checking their accounts obsessively and making spreadsheets that give them an illusion of control. Others go into complete financial avoidance mode, refusing to look at numbers because the reality feels too overwhelming to face. The most telling response is what psychologists call financial regression, where adults revert to childhood coping mechanisms around money. The person who hoards cash might be recreating the security they never had as a child. The stress spender might be using purchases to self-soothe the same way they used toys or treats growing up. The healthiest financial stress response involves what researchers call strategic emotional regulation. This means acknowledging the emotional impact of financial pressure while making decisions based on facts and long-term consequences, rather than immediate emotional relief. People with this pattern tend to have better financial outcomes because they can separate their feelings about money from their decisions about money. They feel the anxiety but they don't let it drive the car. The least healthy pattern is what psychologists call financial dissociation, where people completely disconnect from their money situation when it becomes stressful. They stop checking accounts, avoid opening bills and make decisions based on hope rather than reality. This pattern almost always leads to worse financial outcomes because problems compound when they're ignored. Your stress response with money is trainable and changeable, but first you have to recognize what yours actually is. Here's what all of this means for your actual financial health. Your spending patterns aren't just random behaviors that affect your bank balance. They're a complex psychological system that either supports or undermines your overall well-being. When your spending aligns with your authentic values and emotional needs, money becomes a tool for creating the life you want. When your spending is driven by unconscious wounds, social pressures, or avoidance patterns, money becomes a source of stress and a barrier to your goals. The good news is that awareness creates choice. Once you recognize your patterns, you can decide whether they're serving you or sabotaging you. This isn't about perfect financial discipline or never making emotional purchases. It's about conscious financial alignment where your money behaviors support your actual well-being instead of undermining it. Financial health isn't measured just by your net worth or your debt-to-income ratio. It's measured by how well your relationship with money serves your overall life satisfaction and psychological well-being. Remember to hit that like button if this perspective on spending psychology resonated with you, and subscribe for more content that reveals the hidden psychology behind everyday behaviors. Your spending patterns are like a financial fingerprint, uniquely yours but surprisingly predictable once you know what to look for. The question isn't whether you have patterns, everyone does. The question is whether your patterns are helping you build the life you want or keeping you trapped in cycles that don't serve your well-being. What's the most revealing spending pattern you've noticed in your own financial behavior? Share your insights in the comments below because understanding these patterns is the first step toward changing them. And don't forget to share this video with someone who might benefit from understanding the psychology behind their own spending habits. Financial awareness is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself and others, so spread the knowledge and let's build a community of people who understand that money is psychology made visible.